Games bring us together, not only as friends or family, but as peoples and nations. Throughout history, they have served as a way for us to communicate and understand one another when all other forms of communication have broken down. Now, more than ever, we need that. Can the games of today still be used for this? Somewhere around 2,700 years ago, a group of young men gathered in the Peloponnese to run a foot race. For over 1,000 years, Greeks would gather at that site to compete, trade, talk, and be entertained. And over that 1,000 years, this simple foot race grew into a whole host of games which we now refer to as the Olympics. And this event served as far more than just a gathering for games. It grew to help create a cultural identity. It brought all the Greeks together, even during the toughest times, even during their incessant wars. Here they could gather to express themselves and meet firsthand the people that they'd been fighting against. And in doing so, they had the opportunity to see their opponents as human beings rather than just some faceless foe. And the right to attend these games was made sacred. No matter what war was in progress, it was sacrilege to lay hands on those attending these games. On at least some small scale, these games brought peace. And perhaps most of all, for just a moment, these games gave Greece a place where they could compete without violence, where rivalries and conflict could be expressed through physical prowess rather than the edge of a sword. These games ended under Roman rule, but 1,500 years after the last Olympic game took place, these ideas still held sway, and so they were revived in the waning days of the 19th century. Throughout the 20th century, these games continued. Sometimes they would fail in bringing us together, like in the 1936 Olympics. Although, even there, they did show us the triumph of the human spirit, and the failure of racist ideology. And sometimes the Olympics would serve as a resounding success, like during the Cold War, where the games served as a place where the superpowers could compete, not by nuking each other into atomic slag, but by training and demonstrating the best that humanity could possibly offer. During the Cold War, the games even opened up relations between China and the United States. Ping pong, of all things, was the path back to diplomatic relations between the most populous country in the world and the most wealthy one. Games have time and again been used to bring us together, to create a space where we share an experience, regardless of culture, nationality, religion, or any of the other factors we so often use to draw lines to divide us. So what about today? The games we have now are inherently connected, and almost as a matter of course, they see us playing with people from all around the globe. Shouldn't it be even easier to bring us together with these? It should be, and I have heard plenty of stories about times where it has been. One that always sticks in my mind came from a young woman James met at a convention who told him that she was never very concerned about international affairs, that she just wanted to go to school and play her games and let the rest of the world sort itself out. But then one day, one of her World of Warcraft guildmates stopped showing up to raids. A week went by, then two, and then she started asking around to see if anybody knew this person. Finally, she found out that they lived in Iraq. No one quite knew what happened to them, but she kept hearing that they had been caught in a blast from an IED. This was a wake-up call to her. She started to get involved, and by the time James met her, she was one of the senior staff for a congressional campaign. By just being exposed to one another, by interacting and learning about each other's lives, we can see the similarities between us and find compassion through sharing play. In our games, we can connect in a much realer way than by seeing some abstract statistic on the news, or, as is the case for many, by simply hearing the opinions of those around us. And in our modern world of esports, we may yet be able to carry this further, actually sending teams around the world to be watched by tens of thousands as they compete. By having exhibitions and competitions where our most famous esports stars engage with players from around the world and interact with them with respect and dignity, we can connect to people and cultures we might never otherwise get to interact with. We can come to understand them, not as foreign, but as human, in all of the ways that they are both similar and unique. And with professional players being traded across borders and with all regions being watched internationally, we can create heroes and sports stars who don't look or sound like us, who young people can look up to regardless of what nation they're from. But for all of this hope, there is still a downside. Everybody watching this knows that online spaces can just as easily swerve to reinforce stereotypes and serve as gathering points for the bigoted and the closed-minded. Where in the past, professional athletes competed with one another as professionals, with sportsmanship and dignity, today we take the competition directly into our own hands, sometimes foregoing that mutual respect that comes from two professionals competing at the top of their craft. Private competition can just as easily devolve into toxicity and counterproductive antagonism. If we want to use this incredible tool to its utmost, we have got to be more vigilant against this. As an industry, we have got to more carefully curate the spaces we create, and give our players the tools necessary to build communities. And as individuals, we need to be ready to reach out to those that we encounter in our games that come from around the globe, to be that welcoming voice, to learn just a little bit more about them, even if it's just learning what brings them to our server. And of course, I'm not saying that professional sports are perfect either. Gender balance and sexuality and a whole host of major issues still persist, even in the Olympics, where they've had a committee specifically built to address problems like these since the 90s. And yes, I admit that I'm painting a very optimistic picture here. But we have been handed an incredible tool in online gaming, and we can use this tool that we all enjoy so much to communicate, to create shared experiences, and through doing so, to foster understanding. It is just on us to reach out. See you next week.